Imagine a crop that can heal the ground it grows in while nourishing those who eat it. In the modern supermarket, the heroes of soil regeneration hide in plain sight. They are not trendy superfoods, but roots and grains. Our grandparents grew up with sorghum, cassava, sweet potato, yams, taro, and other underground staples. These regenerative carbs store vast reserves of starch for plants and humans, and when cultivated under soil-building practices, they transform barren earth into living ecosystems. In one study, food grown on regenerative farms contained far more magnesium, calcium, potassium, and zinc, as well as vitamins and phytochemicals than the same crop grown next door under conventional practices. That means the secret to healthier food may lie not in adding supplements, but in rebuilding the soil beneath our feet. But how could humble starches change the fate of our diets and our planet? Let's dig into their remarkable story. Our industrial food system thrives on uniformity. Vast fields of wheat, corn, and soy produce mountains of refined carbohydrates while exhausting soil. The result? A decline in nutrient density that mirrors declining topsoil. Researchers comparing conventional and regenerative farms found that crops grown in healthy soils contained significantly more minerals, vitamins, and anti-inflammatory compounds. They also found fewer harmful elements like cadmium and sodium, and animal products from regenerative systems had better omega-3 to omega-6 ratios. Soil health, they concluded, directly influences phytochemical levels in our food. At the same time, many carbohydrate-rich plants that our ancestors relied on cassava, sweet potatoes, taro, yams, sorghum, and other tubers and grains have been pushed aside in favor of highly processed starches. Yet, these crops offer resilience and nutritional diversity. Plants producing starchy roots and tubers adapt to diverse soils and farming systems with minimal inputs. Root crops are staples in tropical regions because they can thrive where other crops fail and provide energy, fiber, and micronutrients. Their underground storage organs protect them from drought and provide continuous harvests. With regenerative farming practices, cover crops, minimal tillage, and diverse rotations, these staples become tools for repairing soil, sequestering carbon, and boosting human health. It's a story largely overlooked by modern food culture. What if the path to regenerating our soils and our vitality runs through the root cellar? Our journey begins on the Great Plains, where an ancient grain quietly captures carbon and builds soil. Sorghum is a cereal that has fed humans and animals for millennia. Unlike grass-based grains, sorghum captures about 25% more carbon during respiration. In dry conditions, its waxy leaves reduce water loss, and its small leaf pores minimize evaporation. Sorghum's deep fibrous root system mines water from far below the surface and leaves those roots in the ground after harvest, increasing soil organic matter and reducing erosion. In regenerative systems, farmers leave the stalks to rot in place, providing habitat for wildlife and food for microbes. The crop can even go dormant during drought and resume growth when rain returns. These characteristics make sorghum a carbon-loving crop and a champion of water conservation. When farmers swap wheat or corn for sorghum, they cut water use in half because sorghum can produce a bushel of grain with just 6 inches of water. It sequesters carbon in both roots and stalks, with one producer reporting a carbon footprint of minus 0.21 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per kilogram of grain. It's also naturally gluten-free and has a mildly nutty flavor, making it attractive for people with wheat intolerance. Yet sorghum remains a niche crop in many countries. Why? Because modern food systems have favored crops that fit into commodity markets. But for farmers and consumers seeking resilience and nutrition, sorghum deserves a second look. Imagine a grain that drinks half as much water, captures carbon, and tastes nutty. Why isn't it our daily bread? Next, we turn to cassava, sometimes called the Rambo root. Cassava thrives in poor soil, tolerates high temperatures, and stores massive amounts of starch in its swollen roots. This calorie-dense crop is a staple for more than 500 million people worldwide. According to the World Economic Forum, cassava's ability to bring depleted soil back to life could allow farmers to grow other crops later. Researchers argue that cassava can revive degraded land and make it productive anew. In Colombia, for instance, approximately 40% of land suffers from degradation. Cassava cultivation could help restore these landscapes. Cassava's resilience stems from its deep root system and low nutrient requirements. It can grow where maize or wheat would fail, acting as a gateway crop for farmers to rehabilitate soils. After soils recover, farmers can rotate into cash crops like coffee or soy. Cassava also produces leaves high in protein and vitamins, and fermented cassava products offer probiotic benefits. Despite its benefits, cassava remains underutilized outside the tropics, partly due to cyanogenic glucosides that require proper processing. But with modern techniques, these compounds are easily removed, leaving a high-energy, gluten-free flour that can feed people and soil microbes. Could a crop long relegated to tropical villages be the key to reviving exhausted soils and feeding the world? Our next regenerative carb is the sweet potato. Originating in Central America, sweet potatoes have spread across the tropics and subtropics, becoming the 7th largest food crop. They are considered an insurance crop because they can be harvested little by little over long periods, providing food security when other crops fail. NASA has even chosen sweet potatoes as a candidate crop for space missions due to their resilience and nutritional value. Sweet potatoes are rich in dietary fiber, minerals, vitamins, and bioactive compounds like phenolic acids and anthocyanins. Consuming 125 grams of orange-fleshed sweet potatoes improves vitamin A status of children, making them a critical tool against deficiency. Under regenerative organic agriculture, ROA, improved soil structure and water retention promote greater starch and soluble sugar accumulation in root crops such as potatoes and sweet potatoes. Enhanced microbial diversity also increases fiber content in whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. In other words, healthy soil literally sweetens the sweet potato. When farmers grow sweet potatoes without tilling and with cover crops, the vines shade the soil, suppress weeds, and feed soil organisms. The deep roots of sweet potato knit soil particles together, reducing erosion. Because the crop can thrive in marginal soils and deliver high yields, it offers farmers a low-risk option for diversifying away from single crops. It is also a delicious alternative to refined carbohydrates. Yet many Western diets treat sweet potatoes as holiday food instead of daily nourishment. Could re-embracing this vibrant tuber restore our health and our soils? Sweet potatoes can feed astronauts and heal soils, but why do we still treat them like side dishes? Beyond sweet potatoes lie a world of underground delicacies: yams, taro, arrowroot, canna, and more. These crops differ botanically. Yams are tubers, taro is a corm, and cassava is a storage root, but they share an ability to adapt to diverse soils with minimal inputs. In West Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean, yams have been cultivated for centuries. Their tubers contain mucilage and polysaccharides with potential hypoglycemic and hypocholesterolemic effects. Taro, widely grown in Asia and the Pacific, is a good source of potassium and dietary fiber. Many edible aroids, giant taro, tania, and elephant foot yam, remain underappreciated in Western diets. Because these crops evolved in complex ecosystems, they support soil biodiversity when grown in polycultures. In regenerative systems, mixed plantings of taro, sweet potato, and legumes provide continuous ground cover, preventing erosion and improving soil organic matter. Farmers interplant yams with trees or shrubs, training vines up poles, thus integrating vertical and horizontal production. The same practices that sustain soils also create microclimates that reduce pest pressure. Although root and tuber crops are often portrayed as nutrient-poor starch sources, research shows that they are significant sources of bioactive compounds such as phenolic acids, carotenoids, and saponins. Many lesser-known tubers contain antioxidants with antimicrobial and immunomodulatory activities. In addition, their complex carbohydrates and high fiber content slow digestion, stabilizing blood sugar. By diversifying our carbohydrate sources, we not only reduce our dependence on a few grains, but also open doors to flavors and health benefits long forgotten. Buried beneath our feet is a pharmacy of roots and corms. How did we forget their power? Regenerative agriculture is not just about plants. It is about the life that surrounds them. In healthy soil, billions of microbes work in concert with plant roots, exchanging nutrients and signaling molecules. Research on regenerative organic systems shows that soil health influences carbohydrate composition. Improved soil structure and water retention lead to greater starch and sugar accumulation in root crops. Enhanced microbial diversity and nutrient cycling facilitate higher fiber content in whole grains and vegetables. Beneficial soil microbiota stimulate the synthesis of bioactive polysaccharides that strengthen plant defenses and improve crop quality. These compounds not only contribute to digestive health and metabolic balance in human diets, they also stabilize soil structure. Exopolysaccharides secreted by soil microorganisms trap soil particles, retain nutrients, and help plants tolerate stress. Some of these microbial polysaccharides even show potential for immune modulation and anti-tumor activity. Modern farming practices, deep tillage, synthetic fertilizers, and monoculture disrupt these underground alliances. Tilling breaks up soil aggregates, exposing organic matter to oxidation and leaving microbes homeless. Synthetic inputs feed plants directly but starve soil communities. In contrast, regenerative practices cover cropping, compost additions, and minimal disturbance feed the soil. Plants exude sugars to feed microbes, and microbes return nutrients to plants. This reciprocity underpins the nutrient density we see in regenerative crops. The invisible world of soil life thus shapes the quality of the carbohydrates we eat. Beneath every carrot or cassava are billions of partners. What happens when we honor their labor? By now, it's clear that regenerative carbs are more than a catchy phrase. They represent a different relationship with our food, one where the health of the soil and the health of the eater are intertwined. In conventional farming, soils are treated as lifeless media to hold roots and deliver soluble nutrients. Over time, such soils lose organic matter, structure, and the ability to retain water. Crops grown on degraded soils often contain fewer minerals and phytochemicals. In regenerative systems, however, soils are teeming with life. Their high cation exchange capacity allows them to hold calcium, magnesium, potassium, and iron, making these nutrients more available to plants. Cover crops fix nitrogen and scavenge nutrients. Compost increases organic matter, and minimal tillage preserves soil structure. The result is food with higher micronutrient content and a better balance of macronutrients. In comparative studies, regenerative systems produce grains with higher protein content and better essential amino acid balance, as well as fruits and vegetables with greater dietary fiber and carbohydrate complexity. This is the turning point. We begin to recognize that the decline in our health is connected to the decline in soil health, and that the answer may lie in embracing crops and practices that rebuild living soils. Root and tuber crops, once dismissed as poor man's food, are champions of adaptation. They can grow with little fertilizer and water, contribute to biodiversity, and produce food rich in fiber and phytonutrients. Cassava revives degraded land. Sorghum captures carbon and conserves water. sweet potatoes offer vitamin A and security. Yams and taro provide mucilage and minerals. When grown regeneratively, these crops become more nutritious and more abundant. We also see that soil health influences the carbohydrate composition itself. Under ROA systems, improved soil structure and water retention increase the starch content of root crops, making them sweeter and more calorically dense. Enhanced microbial diversity increases fiber content and polysaccharide synthesis, which benefits human digestion. So the plants are literally more nourishing when the soil is healthy. This is not a metaphor, it is biochemistry. Our personal vitality and our planetary vitality are two ends of the same carbon cycle. What if the secret to reversing chronic disease and climate change is to let our carbohydrates grow differently? With this insight, the implications unfold. For farmers, regenerative carbohydrates offer a pathway to resilience. Diversifying with root and tuber crops spreads risk and improves soil health. Incorporating cassava or sweet potatoes into rotations can rehabilitate degraded fields. Planting sorghum reduces irrigation needs and sequesters carbon. Cover crops, compost, and reduced tillage feed the soil microbiome and improve nutrient cycling. By choosing these practices, farmers can reduce input costs and enhance yields over time. For consumers, regenerative carbs invite us to rediscover flavors and nutrition. Instead of relying on refined wheat or corn, we can enjoy sorghum porridge, cassava flatbread, roasted taro, or sweet potato soups. Each brings different fibers, resistant starches, and micronutrients. Many of these crops are gluten-free, offering alternatives for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. Because they digest slowly, they help maintain stable blood sugar and support gut microbes. On a societal level, embracing regenerative carbs could improve public health. Micronutrient deficiencies affect more than 2 billion people worldwide. Regenerative practices improve the bioavailability of key minerals such as zinc, magnesium, and iron in crops. By consuming foods grown in healthy soils, we might reduce chronic diseases linked to nutrient-poor diets. The increased dietary fiber and phytochemical content may improve metabolic health and reduce inflammation. There is also a cultural implication. Valuing roots and grains from diverse cuisines fosters culinary creativity and respect for traditional knowledge. For the environment, regenerative carbs are a climate solution. Sorghum's carbon capture and water efficiency help mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. Cassava's ability to thrive in poor soils reduces pressure on forests by reviving degraded lands. Rotating root crops with legumes and cereals enhances biodiversity above and below ground. Healthier soils store more carbon and water, making landscapes more resilient to droughts and floods. And by diversifying our carbohydrate sources, we reduce reliance on monocrops that drive deforestation and erosion. These foods might save your gut and the planet's lungs at the same time. What will it take to bring them back into our kitchens? We began with a mystery. How could humble starches boost both soil and human vitality? Our exploration uncovered a symbiotic loop. Crops like sorghum, cassava, sweet potatoes, yams, and taro are not just sources of calories, they are agents of regeneration. When grown in healthy living soils, their starches become sweeter and richer, their fibers multiply, and their tissues fill with minerals and antioxidants. The soil, in turn, benefits from their deep roots, carbon-sequestering stalks, and contributions to microbial life. Regenerative agriculture binds these benefits together, transforming the relationship between farmers, eaters, and the land. For a mature audience seeking wisdom beyond dietary fads, regenerative carbs offer a grounded path. They remind us that health is not manufactured in laboratories. It is cultivated through care for ecosystems. They invite us to diversify our plates with foods that have sustained communities for centuries. Most importantly, they show that the answer to many of our modern crises may be found under our feet. When we grow and eat in ways that regenerate soil, we close a broken loop. The nutrients cycling through the soil feed our bodies, and the choices of our bodies nurture the soil. So the next time you pass the root vegetables in the market or see sorghum flour in a baking aisle, consider the story beneath the skin. What if the path to restoring our health and our planet's health begins with a cassava pancake or a bowl of millet porridge? The hidden starches of regenerative agriculture may hold more power than we ever imagined.